You have found yourself in a situation where you need a hard drive. You have a bunch of 4K footage. You don't know where to go. You don't know where to export. You're in the predicament now where you need a good hard drive. You need that in your pocket. And I got a few of them right here that I would like to show you. And I'm hoping I could just point you guys in the right direction if you're looking for some. Let's go ahead and get into the review. So we're gonna be starting with the Samsung T5 2TB SSD. Now we all know you're never gonna get the full 2 terabytes. It's always gonna be like 1.8, 1.6, but this one comes out to 1.81 terabytes once you have everything set up. When I compare it to my other hard drives, it's kind of on the shorter side, and it's also a little bit lighter as well. It takes USB-C, and the transfer rate for files can go up to 540 megabytes per second. It also has a drop distance from up to 2 meters, so if you're clumsy like me, that's a plus for you. But as far as pricing goes, I couldn't find a price on the official website because it's kind of old. It came out in 2017. But for resale price, you could find it for about $250 to $300 on like Amazon or eBay. But there are definitely some better options out there. So we're gonna go ahead and move on from our T5 onto our Samsung T7 4 terabyte solid state drive. But once it's all set up, it really comes out to 3.63 terabytes. Sorry guys, you know, I have to be honest here. This one is also pretty small as well, but not as small as the T5. They're all pretty small, but the T5 is the smallest. But it's very smooth and sleek. I love how it feels in my hand, and it might be a little heavier than the T5, just a little bit though. It also has read speeds up to 1050 megabytes per second and write speeds up to 1000 megabytes per second, which is pretty fast. It's a pretty good drive. I've actually been working on a big project off of this drive, and I haven't experienced any problems on it. It just works pretty flawlessly outside of just regular Premiere issues. You know, shout out Adobe Premiere crash every now and then, but no disrespect, I still love y'all. It has the same 2-meter shock resistance, but it's also dust and water resistant as well. Now on the official Samsung website, this drive will run you about $250, but there is a 2 terabyte version that's only $139, $139.99 to be specific. But if you're working on big projects that require you to have an efficient workflow, I would definitely suggest this drive right here for you right there. But let's go ahead and move on to the next drive though. Moving on, we have the T7 Touch 2 terabyte SSD, which actually comes out to 1.81 terabytes. This drive also has a sleek, smooth feel to it, and it also feels like it weighs about the same as the other T7. But what makes this drive so special is that it has an integrated fingerprint scanner, so you can put your finger on it and unlock the hard drive with your fingerprint technology. Its read and write speeds are also the same as the other T7, 1050 and 1000 megabytes per second for read and write speeds. And also had some projects on this one in the past, and it didn't really give me any problems, so recommendation from me. And as far as pricing goes, there's a 500 gigabyte version for $100, a 1 terabyte for $180, and a 2 terabyte for $280. Now on to the latest installment of the Samsung SSD catalog. We have the T9s, more specifically the T9 4 terabyte SSD, which is actually only 3.63 terabytes. Sorry. Now you can see the material is different from the sleek T7 with its reverse carbon pattern, giving it a soft, somewhat bumpy texture. And this also makes for better shock resistance that can go up to 3 meters. So for all of my clumsy people out there, they made this for us. They did. Moving on. And they're definitely the heaviest out of the bunch, I can tell by just holding it. Now this drive's read and write speeds exceed the T7's by 1000 megabytes per second, coming in at read and write speeds both 2000 megabytes per second, bro. You can't beat that. Shout out Samsung. Shout out Samsung. And all of my most recent projects have been stored on my T9 collection that's back there. But with having used a 2 terabyte version as well, I can say that I haven't experienced any problems using them. And I'm talking about I've been doing 500 plus gigabyte projects. This is like 4K footage and stuff. So I'd recommend it 10 times out of 10. But with the T9 being the latest, they're definitely gonna run you a pretty penny. The 4 terabyte is priced at $299, 2 terabyte at $199, and the 1 terabyte at $129. Now, outside of the Samsung SSD catalog, I have a couple of honorable mentions that I'd like to highlight for you guys. The Sandisk E61 and E30 2 terabyte drives. Now, the E30 is the smaller of the two, which is always more convenient. The drop distance is up to 2 meters, and its rubber exterior helps too, just for better grip and shock protection. And it also comes with this little keychain hole for those of us that lose things very easily, such as myself. Its read and write speeds come out to around 800 megabytes per second, which primarily make it useful for storage, not necessarily working off the drive, but you know, do what you gotta do. And as far as pricing, it'll run you $129.99 on the official Sandisk website. And lastly, we have our Sandisk E61 2TB SSD. It's a little bigger than the E30, but it still has the same rubber exterior. And when I hold them, it feels like they weigh the same, surprisingly, considering this one's bigger. But I digress. The drop distance is the same 2 meters as pretty much every other drive. Just don't drop your hard drive, please. And the read and write speeds for this drive match the T7, 1050 on read, 1000 on write. I'll put the prices for you guys on the screen right here somewhere. But in conclusion, if you're a videographer, cinematographer, editor, whatever the case may be, make sure they're in the frame. But these are some really good options for you. And even though they might not fully be on the cheaper side, you know, you get what you pay for. And SSDs are one of those things, if you're going into the industry, you're gonna need them at some point. So I'll always say that SSDs are something that's worth sacrificing that extra dollar for. But yeah, I hope this video was exciting. I hope it was insightful. I hope you learned something, and I hope I may have pointed you in the right direction so you can find a drive for yourself that will help you with your projects and whatnot. So yeah, I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.